Hi, I'm Chef Heather Nace, the Director of Operations for the Goldring Center for Culinary Medicine at Tulane University School of Medicine. Today, I'm going to show you how to julienne and dice an onion, both a small dice and a medium dice. Here's our onion. We're going to start by thinking about the anatomy of the onion. Many times people want to know, how can I cry less when I'm cutting onions? The best tip I have for you is to keep the root end intact as long as possible. That's where all of the gases that make us cry are really located. So we are going to keep that in mind when thinking about what to do for our first cut. So I'm going to keep the root intact. So I'm going to start by taking off the stem end here. After I cut that stem end off, I have a nice flat surface, which is great. Round, rolly things are sort of difficult to cut, so we like a flat surface. Now I'm going to take my knife and cut directly through the center of the root. That gives me two more flat surfaces. It also makes my onion very easy to peel away that papery skin. Once you have your skin peeled off, you are ready for the next step. We're going to start with our dice. So on half of this onion, I am going to do a medium dice. Medium dice would be great for adding to, sauteed recipes. Lots of uses for a medium dice. What I want to think about now is looking again sort of at the anatomy of my onion. I've got these lines that run from the root up towards that stem end. I'm going to use that as a bit of a guide. So I'm going to start by using the tip of my blade here, and I'm going to make cuts going straight down. I am not going all the way to the root, but very close to it. And I'm thinking about keeping these cuts evenly spaced. I want my food to be cut evenly, both because it looks good, but also because it is going to cook evenly, and ultimately, that is what we want. You'll notice that I'm keeping my other fingers out of the way, and anytime they're near the knife, I'm keeping them in that nice claw shape. Now, if we've done it right, our onion is still pretty well intact here, and all we need to do is turn the onion the other direction, and using the center part of my blade, I'm just going to cut straight down until I get to the end. Now, when I get towards this end part over here, I like to transition and use my fingertips, or almost my fingernails really, to anchor in to that root and keep those fingers tucked. And then the only other tip I have for you is this last piece. I may not have gone all the way through, so I may come through and just do one quick cut to clean that up. But if we've done this correctly, we should have nice, beautiful diced pieces that we don't have to keep running the knife blade through. That's really important because that's another way to avoid crying so much. And really, the best tip for that is practice, practice until you are confident and can do it pretty quickly, so that way you won't cry so much. Okay, so now I have this, my root, actually, this onion was kind of a little bit off-center, the root, which is not a problem. But now this piece of my onion is quite large. I'm going to go for a small dice here. Now, many times you will see people do a horizontal cut like this. I don't like to do that. It's not very safe. We can hurt ourselves, and so we want to be mindful of that. So what I'm going to do instead, this is a little bit of an advanced skill, but I think it's good to learn. I'm going to start my cuts this time on a bit of an angle. And I'm going to do an angle, and then I'm going to go up to straight, and then angled around this side. And you'll see what that looks like. So just doing the same thing again, I am going to make these a little bit closer together. This is really good for, if you are making a mirepoix, you're starting off a soup or a stock, or maybe even a nice pasta sauce. You may want your pieces really nice and small. I find too that whenever I'm using onion, if I'm using it raw, I really like to aim for smaller pieces. Sometimes when you get to this other side, it can be a little awkward to do the angle. I'm actually just going to turn a bit this way and move my hand to the other side so that it's totally out of the way. Okay, we're good to go. And we're just going to do that same thing. Now, oftentimes, you may be thinking that we're going to focus on using our rocking motion when we cut. Because this onion is so tall, though, it could be difficult. That's why I'm just going straight up and down like this, gently, not putting too much pressure, letting that knife do the work. And then we have our nice, beautiful fine dice. I also will not worry too much if I have pieces that are sort of a little wonky on the side, because I like to save my scraps for veggie stock. So I'm not too worried about that. I will throw that right into my treasure bin and save that for veggie stock for really nice flavor. And so you see, I did that pretty quickly. And if I was not talking, I would do it even faster. Oh, we got so much onion here. All right, and then next up, we are going to talk about the julienne. And this is really a great skill to have. And I think that sometimes people don't have, you know, they have an instinct, and we're going to show you how to do it the best way. Okay, so again, we have our root end, we have our stem end. I'm still going to start by taking off the stem end. I'm still going to cut it in half through the root. And then I'm going to peel it. And then the only thing different between what we just did and what we're about to do is that I am actually going to take the root off. And I'll show you why. Okay, so when we're thinking about doing a julienne, oftentimes people may think, okay, great, I'll just start here like I did before, and I'll just cut this way to make a julienne. The problem with this is you have pieces of all these different sizes, right? I call this like a little rainbow. That's what it looks like to me. This is not going to cook evenly or eat evenly in my dish. So I want to take my root off and then, still following my lines, cut in this direction here. So I am going to do the same thing I did the last time by starting off on an angle. I am going to imagine that for this onion, I am doing some nice caramelized onions. And I want them to be pretty thinly cut. Of course, if I was doing another dish, I could cut them much thicker. Maybe if I was doing something like roasting or even sauteing, I could do a thicker piece. Now, one tip is that when the bottom of the onion becomes smaller than it is taller, which we're not quite there yet, almost, we are going to give ourselves a little bit of a flip so that we have more leverage. So this is a good time now. You see it's smaller on the bottom, taller here. We're going to flip it this way so that we have a wider base and it's more stable and sturdy. And now I'm doing that nice rocking motion, and you see I just glide right through those onions. And now what you are left with are these nice, very evenly julienned onions. Perfect for sauteing or caramelizing. Lots of options here.